Shabbat Shalom. Just in case you're ever bored in services and you want to pay attention a little more closely or notice, if you ever notice the cantor breakser makes a choice different than you expect, there's always a reason, and if you look really carefully, you'll find it. Like we just sang that last song. Did you notice why? Did anybody see why?
Susan loves it.
Because Susan loves it, for sure. There was another reason, believe it or not. Anybody can see? Can we see?
Does it have to do with the holiday?
God, It talks about God being above the mighty sea and the breakers, and you can picture us crossing the sea. I mean, that wasn't even in our outline. I think it was like a game moment decision, but he does that stuff all the time. It's just like, if you pay really close attention, there's meaning hidden in the choices. It's really amazing. That's not what I'm talking about mostly. I just wanted to say that. So I originally wanted to speak to you tonight about refugees and about the Exodus story as a story of refugees and what that means for us here and now. But I'm going to have to speak about that in the morning because tonight I need to speak to you about Israel. And not only because the Israeli police stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Erev Pesach, taking many prisoners, and not only because Hamas in Gaza and Lebanon, it seems it was Hamas fired rockets at Israel, and then Israel responded by bombing Gaza and Lebanon. But because two young women were driven into a ditch today and shot at close range and killed. And they were there with their mother, who was wounded and is, I believe, currently in the hospital. And because we're in the midst of an utterly predictable escalation of violence that threatens to silence what has been the most hopeful ray of light I've seen in a long time, the uprising in the streets in Israel. And because that resistance in Israel, the hundreds of thousands of people who've been filling the streets for months, created a Haggadah, so beautiful and important, that I feel the need to share parts of it with you. And we have some Israelis here with us tonight, and I hope I'll do justice to the conditions and the cause. So my feeling is that this is the liberation story that most needs to be told on this holiday of liberation, and that their words, not mine, are the ones that we most need to hear. So I'm mostly going to be speaking in their words, and I will tell you who's speaking in each case. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh, David Grossman writes, "This night is different because we, the protesters, are different. We who did not know we had such strength, we who did not know we had such determination, such endurance, we who did not realize how deeply we belong to this state, belonging, caring, solidarity, we ourselves did not imagine how much love was hidden inside us for the way of life we've managed to create here in Israel. Granted, it is a way of life that contains faults and injustices, and moreover embodies the repression of one intolerable fact, that we are a nation that has occupied another nation for 55 years. Nevertheless, and against all odds, here on the shores of the Mediterranean, we have created a state unlike any other in the world. But then came this grab, this sudden brutal onslaught of legislative changes, and overnight, everything shattered. From day to day, from protest to protest, it increasingly seems that those who initiated this coup have made a colossal mistake. They have misread our passion for liberty, our principle of equality for all human beings, our democratic spirit, our humanity. Most movingly, hundreds of thousands of young people are teaching us, their parents and their grandparents' generations, the meaning of democracy. And you shall tell your children, the Haggadah says, but the adage has been reversed, and your children shall tell you. You, Israel's children, youths, you are braver than us. Perhaps it is because you feel you have no choice, and that is something else that is different this night. We now see clearly that we are the last line of defense for the state of Israel against sheer tyranny. That is why this night is different from all other nights." Yishai Sarid offered this teaching on Halach Ma'anya. We open with a reminder from the past. This is the bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt, a A social injunction immediately follows. The hungry shall come and eat, the needy shall come and celebrate Passover. The traumas we suffered do not exempt us from our moral obligations today. And then comes the hope for redemption. This year we are here, next year we will be in the land of Israel. This is the hope that throbbed in the hearts of generations of Jews in their lands of exile. This is the dream that brought my grandparents to the land of Israel. And then finally we are striving for freedom. This year we are slaves, and next year we will be free. We returned to our homeland to be free. As a nation and as individuals, in our Declaration of Independence, we pledged that Israel shall be a country of free men and women, irrespective of religious faith, ethnicity, or gender. We will not be ruled by a despot. We will not be infested by the rabid racism that has plagued us in our lands of exile. This is the grand, benign spirit that gave birth to Israeli democracy. This is a generations-long dream that we turned into a reality with unbearably precious sacrifices. We will defend it ferociously in the name of our forefathers and for the sake of our children and for our nation. Ilana Bernstein writes, the occupation is jailed in the house's basement. The basement swirling with voices. It's nothing, says Dad. The wind is rattling the windows. In the morning, us girls pick up the shards of window pane, shards red as the blood of the plagues of Egypt. The walls were shot at, we say. It's nothing, says Dad. Today we were forbidden from playing in the front yard. Holes are being dug. It's dangerous. From time to time, we descend to the dark basement to feed the shackled people, to give them water so they don't die on us in the basement. Rifles on our shoulders, we are alert. Then we let them loose in the yard to exercise a little. It's for our sake. By the day's end, quiet fills the house. The occupation is calm. Dad is elated. So are we. Months go by. Years. The occupation roars like a tired lion. We are tired too. The eyes won't see, the ears won't hear. One must keep watch. The house is ours. The yard is ours. Even the sky is ours. We were born to be free, says Dad. Our entire life is still ahead of us. One morning, the occupation whelps a little cub. Shame, we named it. And we pat the cub. Beware, says Dad, this cub is not as cute as it seems. And now we are missing 2 fingers. I told you, said Dad. Shame doesn't understand our language. Shame is bloodthirsty. We are thirsty too. Water does not slake our thirst as it used to. Passover Eve, the ancient Egyptians released Dad's forefathers from slavery to freedom, from grief to joy. We should say thanks to the good God above and eat matzah. Dad seals the basement's top window. Dad seals the basement door. We don't want surprises during the holiday. Wooden planks for a window, a concrete wall for a door. The table is set. The throats are parched. We used to be slaves. Now we are free. Our ears are buzzing, but we only think they are, says Dad. The people in the basement are calling for help. Their nails are scraping the concrete wall. It's the stray dogs, says Dad. The food gets stuck in our throats. We're all excited, says Dad. This holiday we will finally have peace and quiet. The occupation is our freedom. At midnight, when Elijah and Dad's friends knock at the door, we are sleepy. The party is over, they say. Yaniv Iskovitz writes this. There was only one plague, my grandmother whispered at me as my grandfather was reading the names of the 10 plagues, instructing us to dip our pinky in the wine cup. Well, I implored Grandma, why only one plague? As far as the Pharaoh was concerned, she smiled at me with sad eyes. There was only one plague. The waters of the Nile were taken over by blood, but the royal palace had water stored for emergencies. Frogs leapt about in his house, but the Pharaoh had guards who quickly removed them. The wild beasts and the locusts ravaged the crops, but I'm sure that the king's granaries were full. Darkness hit the land of Egypt, but the palace was lit with lanterns. What about the boils, I asked. Who do you think had the best doctors in the country? She smiled. Look, she grew serious. It says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. His kingdom's subject had lost everything. They drank blood, they died of plagues, they were hungry and they were scared, but none of that persuaded him to stop. He had to lose what was dearest to him in order to do what he should have done in the first place. He needed destruction to knock at his door, to hit him on the head, to shake him to the core. poor. He needed to lose his son. A tear welled up in my grandmother's eye. She stroked my head. I noticed that my grandfather was watching us with concern. Everyone's plates were covered with burgundy drops. Why then, I asked her, upset, why did he send his army all the way to the Red Sea after the death of the firstborns? He knew how it would end. He knew that those soldiers would not come back home. Well, that's obvious, she said, and rose up to clear the plates. At that stage, he had nothing more to lose. As she reached my plate, she bent down and whispered in my ear, and you will remember that there is another way. Finally, Noah Yedlin writes, who knows one? I know one. One is our struggle, not up in the heavens, but all over the land. Of course, it is not only their struggle, it is our struggle too. Israelis are clearer than they've ever been that it is time for American Jews to speak loudly and clearly for their freedom, for our shared vision of the land of Israel. They need us to pressure their government through pressure on our government. They need us to stand in solidarity with the hundreds of thousands of people filling the streets. Moses, Cleary writes, was never a bystander, and we are not bystanders either. The way we take action is by supporting the people and the organizations who are fighting for freedom in Israel on the ground. Everyone in this room has a concrete way, an opportunity, 3 weeks from tonight, to do just that. On April 28th, we will be celebrating Israel's 75th birthday. 3 days late. It's actually on the 25th, but it's okay. Yom HaMo'eid, with a special event called Hope for Our Future, through which we will honor an organization called Omdim B'Yachad, Standing Together. It's a young organization of Israeli Jews and Palestinians who are standing together for democracy, for economic and social justice, and for equality for Jews and Palestinians, and for an end to the occupation. After services here in the chapel, we will have a dinner in the ballroom upstairs. We're flying in Itamar Avneri, a leader of Omdim B'Yachad, to speak to us about the protests and about their work. And we will give him our very first annual Hope for Our Future award, along with a collective gift to Omdim B'Yachad. Tickets to the dinner cost $100, though no one will be turned away for lack of funds. The reason that they cost that much is that 100% of the proceeds are going to go directly to Omdim B'Yachad. We're hoping to raise $20,000 for their work. Several elected officials will be here as well. And you can register in the CD advisory and dedicate an email I sent a couple weeks ago that you can search in your email. Anyone can come to the dinner, they don't have to be CDE members. So please invite your friends and any person who wants to do something for the freedom and the redemption of the state of Israel. Last Shabbat morning, I brought a teaching from the Hasidic sage Me'ori Naim about matzah. He noted that the only difference between the word matzah and the word HaMo'eid is a small opening. Both words have a mem, both words have a tzadi, but there are differences between a chet and a he. And the difference between those two letters is just a small opening. This is the week when we eat matzah as an act of faith in that opening. The opening up of all the dead ends and of all the hopelessness that grips us so often. Just when the world seems closed and stuck, the opening reminds us that freedom is always possible, that change is always possible. The authors of the Freedom Haggadah, the hundreds of thousands of Israelis fighting for their country, are bringing us that very opening. May they succeed. Shabbat Shalom.
Page 100.